Government lifts the ban on small-scale mining imposed almost 2 years ago, but already some civil society groups are questioning the achievement of the ban so far.
You would say that all the boxes have not been ticked, but in the way the ban has also been lifted, it's taking into consideration the fact that there's still a lot more work to be done.
Top story is brought to you by Bond Savings and Loans. Your success, our passion. Vodafone. The future is exciting. Ready and Gassem Cement. Also, it is brought to you by MasterCard. My name is Gifty Ando Apia.
The comprehensive roadmap will address, amongst others, the following activities: reclaiming and reforestation of mined-out areas, restoration of impacted water bodies, strict supervision of the processes of awarding mining licenses and associated permits, the establishment of a mercury pollution abatement project, the implementation of alternative livelihood projects, systematic control of the engagement of excavators and changfans in mining areas, and continued formalization and regulation of the small-scale mining sector.
You would say that all the boxes have not been ticked, but in the way the ban has also been lifted, it's taking into consideration the fact that there's still a lot more work to be done.
So that's a voice of Ken Ashigbe, who is with the coalition of media against Galamsey. We'll hear more from him shortly. But earlier, you heard President Akufo-Addo 5 months ago detailing a comprehensive roadmap to dealing with the illegal mining in the country. Well, today, the Interministerial Committee on Illegal Mining lifted the ban on small-scale mining, which was imposed in January 2017. Well, Secretary of the National Association of Small-Scale Miners, Godwin Ama, was at the ceremony that was meant to outdoor government's new policy framework to regularize mining activities in Ghana. He actually outlined how the ban has impacted their business.
Members of NASIM has been through unwanted hardship for the past 22 months of the ban. However, we have dialogued and supported government to find a lasting solution to the challenges of illegal mining. We have spent over 1 million Ghana cedis as an association to support our task force to clear the river bodies of dredges, popularly known as Chamfan, and arrested several illegal miners. The task force of NASIM is still collaborating with Vanguard to clear our water bodies. In the coming years, the Ghana National Association will deploy a task force both at the national and then the local level to augment government's efforts to continually raid the small-scale mining space of recalcitrant and unpatriotic illegal miners. Just like yesterday, whilst we were preparing to attend this all-important program, some Chinese miners were busily degrading our lands at Ankam in the Mansu area. However, our task force has stopped them and brought them to the Interministerial Committee to be given to the appropriate agency for further investigation. NASIM will effectively implement our peer review mechanism to promote sustainable mining. We will also identify and register prospective small-scale miners and show the way for them to mine responsibly.
So that is Mr. Ama there. He speaks for the small-scale Association of Small-Scale Miners there. Well, the lifting of the ban paves way for validated small-scale miners to go back to their concessions and start digging for gold, and that's starting next week, Monday. Chairman of the Interministerial Committee on Illegal Mining and Environment Minister, Professor Kwabena Frimpong Boateng, explains what the ban means, but then he insists Galamsey remains illegal.
Let me say what the meaning of lifting of the ban is. If you say you are going to lift the ban, what do we mean? Lifting of the ban will allow mining companies with valid company registration certificates, valid permits and licenses from the regulatory authorities, Minerals Commission, EPA, and Water Resources Commission, tax identification numbers, companies who have had their mining equipment licensed and electronically tagged by DVLA, and whose concessions have been vetted and given a QR code to go back to work. Mining equipment, especially excavators and bulldozers that have not been licensed by DVLA and tagged with electronic devices will not be permitted for mining purposes, small-scale mining purposes. All mining companies are expected to have at least one person that has been trained in sustainable mining in Tarkwa. This is very important. Having said what the ban means, let me say what the ban does not mean. The lifting of the ban does not mean that the ban on Galamsey has been lifted and that they can go back to work.
Professor Frimpong Boateng, now, as I indicated earlier on, civil society groups have already started questioning the achievement so far. Let's get on the lines and speak to coordinator of the Media Coalition Against Galamsey, Kenneth Ashibe. Mr. Ashibe, thank you very much for your time listening here on Top Story. The ban has been lifted. It is an answer to the cries of a lot of small-scale miners. What do you say?
Well, I would say with mixed feelings because fortunately, and let me look at fortunately, the ban has been, the way the ban has been lifted, it's been selectively done. So it is those miners who have had their permit, their licenses vetted, and then also the government is going to put in place measures to ensure that they police how they would go about their mining. And the reason why I then get a bit excited about it is the fact that you then would have this 600, 300 or so miners also forming vanguard to ensure that the illegality will not happen. I am hoping that with the struggles they themselves have gone through in terms of having to be out of work for 20-something odd months, they would also be a lot more responsible. If you just listen to what the minister said, and I think we need to be quick to say, I have not seen the policy document itself. All I have seen is I was there when he read the speech. I have seen a copy of the speech, but it's important that for you, the media yourselves, you get copies of that policy document so we can police it. So we want to be sure that everything that has been said in that document is going to be done, because in Ghana, we have the situations where we have all the laws, all the policies, but when it comes to implementation, we fall foul of them. So my other worry is the fact that there were various elements of from the voice you played of the president, there were elements that were conditions precedent that had to be met before the lifting of the ban was done. Some of them are still yet to be done in terms of cleaning up the waters, in terms of reclamation of the land. But you can understand, if Professor Frimpong Boateng himself says that it would cost us $29 billion to reclaim the land, where are we going to get $29 billion to reclaim the land before we get the miners going back to work? So what we have now is some pragmatic steps that have been taken. But I also know that some researchers from CSR were not in favor of lifting the ban now. So what I think that as media we can do now that this decision has been taken is, how do we hold the seat of leadership to account, as Chapter 12 of the Constitution stipulates, to ensure that what the things that they said they are going to do, they are doing them. And also, since the Minister for Information said they are still open for conversations and consultations, because I'm not too sure any of you media people were consulted before this came up.
So Mr. you mentioned how the president listed some elements that he wanted to see, or things that he wanted to see before the ban would be lifted. Based on what you said, as far as the cost involved is concerned, were they just unrealistic expectations, or this is something that is simply impossible to achieve? Clearing the water bodies, for example.
Oh, well, I'm not too sure clearing the water bodies are impossible to achieve. Fortunately, I had a conversation with the Minister for Water and Sanitation. She also seemed to have some plans, because if you consider the fact that the Thames at some point was so polluted, but now has been cleaned up, I'm pretty sure that if we, went back and ensured that the leakages that come from the gold production are all stopped, I'm sure at some point we would be able to clean it up, but it would take a lot of work.
Okay.
Bear in mind that it was said somewhere between 2013 and 2016, we could not account for $2.3 billion worth of gold exported to India, Dubai, and then Switzerland. If we're able to block all these leakages, maybe we would be able to start cleaning the water bodies one by one. But it's really a Herculean task.
Mr. Ashbe, hold on for me. You as part of people who monitored this program have said that we've not really achieved what we set out to achieve. But let me speak to the Secretary of the Interministerial Committee on Small-Scale Mining, Charles Bisu, to find out again a few things that you've mentioned about the new policy. Mr. Bisu, thank you very much for your time this evening. Mr. Ashbe was just talking about consultations, whether or not everybody was consulted. The media, of course, the coalition for media against illegal mining was there. I don't know whether they were consulted, but have we really achieved what we wanted to?
Yeah, consultation was done because I think Ken and his group traveled around the country, the media coalition. They've done a lot of work. In the same vein, the Interministerial Committee also went around the country where the chieftaincy minister went going to visit every mining community across the country. As we may recall, this morning, even somebody came from Wa, where illegal miners are, to talk about community mining. When we went there, what was happening and all that. So after coming back, we put things together. So I do not know the sort of consultation that he's talking about, because, we went around the 75 mining districts. Even some places that we went to, they went mining districts there. But because of the illegal mining prevailing there, we came back and the report was that former district.
So have all the boxes been checked in terms of what the president intended to achieve with this ban?
The mandate of the Interministerial Committee was, one, to strengthen the agencies, which we have done to some extent. Two, the president did not say that we should actually ensure that all the river bodies are clean as mineral water. What he said was that we should put measures in place so that we can monitor the system. Like my brother Ken is saying, he's saying they cannot stay at home in perpetuity. People have gone through hardship and all that. But once we have mechanisms that would monitor them, then we're home and dry. But the condition precedent that he was talking about was for us to have measures to even monitor the water bodies and all that. So basically, on the 16th of August, when Professor Frimpong outlined the roadmap, he mentioned some of the condition precedent, which was the vetting of miners, training of people at some of the miners at UMAT and all that. And then within the roadmap, there is the way forward. The way forward was coming out in the policy framework within which we are all going to adhere to and ensure that monitoring is done so that we can go forward. Now, what we have, and it's very important, is the data, because hitherto we did not know how many, the number of miners in this country. Even as we speak, we do not know the number of miners, but then we know the number of licenses and the number of concessions, which was in a mess. That data would help us actually to start monitoring. So next week, when we publish the names of concessions or licenses that has actually been validated, and even that, once they go back to work, it does not mean they've actually passed fully. You have 6 months probation, within which we have to go and then actually monitor if you're doing the right thing. And then after 6 months, you can actually pass and go. So there are a lot of levels or a lot of measures that we've put in place, which is contained within the roadmap.
Well, Mr. Ashbe, are you there? Well, looks like we've lost Mr. Ashbe there. Mr. Bisi, thank you very much for your time this evening here on Top Story. He is the Secretary to the Interministerial Committee on Small-Scale Mining. Well, you've heard from the Media Coalition Against Galamsey. Now you can hear from the Wasa Association of Communities Affected by Mining. They don't seem to be impressed as well.
Yeah, a little bit surprised with this announcement. The major issue is what really were the indicators that were used or government used in deciding that, well, we are of the view or they are of the position that they've been able to handle issues to the extent that, yes, they should commend small-scale mining activities again. So for us, we are a little amazed as in the announcement, as in what criteria was used in, or the indicator was used in measuring the success of the work done.
Top Story is brought to you by Bond Savings and Loans. Your success, our passion. Gasem, the nation builder. Vodafone. The future is exciting. Ready? And MasterCard. My name is Gifty Andopia. And now we cross over to our partners, the BBC, for the announcement of the winner of the BBC African Footballer of the Year.
Both are vital to the club.
What do you make of both of the start to the seasons for both players? Because a lot of talk about